Once again, I am excited about being here with you all on this morning. The last time that I was here with y'all know your girl was going through it. I was stuffy out everything. I said, "Oh Lord," and I've been on the mends. There has been so much that has been happening with me in between. And look, devil has been busy, but God is still good. And I'm grateful for him just giving provision and allowing me to be here. So because of the time strains, we got things to do. So I want to make sure we get in and I get you everything. And today I'm just going to keep it really simple on this morning and give you guys a little glimpse from where I have been and the things that have been going on with me. So, if you saw the tag and if you saw the title, you saw that it said deconstructing your home walls, rebuilding your faith and your self love. And this came about because over the past now, it's been about a month. Maybe a month and a half, where I have been dealing with water damage in my house. Now, I'm going to tell y'all the story of how it got down and what God has given me in this deconstructing your home walls. So it started out, really simple. Been in the house. We have been able to survive hurricanes and storms. If you guys don't know, I live in Florida, and we were hit really hard with hurricanes on last year, and God allowed us to come through without any damage. Everything was fine. It was good. But as I am always on the move, I'm cleaning my house, and y'all don't laugh at me, okay? But I clean my ceiling walls, right? So I have like my mop stuff and I'm cleaning it. And my kids are always doing some type of experiment or something that's going on, and things are, yeah, prone to be splattered everywhere. Plus, my family has heavy allergies. So I'm always cleaning. And so I was cleaning the ceiling and I saw this like kind of brown spot. And so as I'm seeing this brown spot, I'm like, it's not going away as I'm wiping down. What's happening? What's going on? And so I'm looking at this spot and I'm like, okay, it'll be all right. Came back, y'all, it got bigger. And then it was like 3 days later, and there were like multiple ones that were all over. And I said, okay, something is happening here because this ain't just normal, spot stuff like this. There must be something going on. So of course, got to call the plumber, come out to the house. And so they come out and they say, well, Miss Tunsil, we got some good news and bad news. And I'm like, okay, tell me about it, or like, well, the good news is you called us in the nick of time. And I said, okay. They said, the bad news is you've had a water leak that has been happening, and it's been happening slowly over time. And it's now to a point where it has saturated everything on your second floor, including the walls that are downstairs. And so now you're going to have to get that repaired. And I said, okay, but what do I do about the leak? And they were like, oh, we can fix that. And they were like, it could be one or two things. It could simply be where you just got to fix your shower head, or you actually have like some type of valve issue. And that's just due to reconstruction. And I was like, okay, go ahead and do what you got to do. So they go in there, and of course, it's the valve that is not well. And the valve is faulty from its foundational work. So the people who originally made it, they're the ones who like messed it up and has been causing this leaking and this stuff. And we don't even know how long this leak has been going on. So I said, okay, not a big deal, go ahead and fix that. So as they fixed that, they were like, well, your shower is like located next to where your linen closet is. So you're going to have to remove all of those items from out of there in order for us to do the work. So guess what Tiff had to do? I had to take all of my stuff out of the bathroom, every single piece. Now, a master bedroom. I don't know if y'all ever had a master bedroom with two people, a husband who just, yeah, all over the place. Yeah, so I have to remove all of the stuff out, right? So I'm pulling it all out, letting them get to work, do what they got to do, right? So he goes in and he starts working, and I start seeing the holes, and everything starts coming apart. And it's really like being deconstructed. So he finishes, he fixes everything, he replaces everything that needs to be done. And he says, now it's time for the deconstruction to begin. And I'm like, deconstruction? Like, you just fixed it. Like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, we've got to, test everything out. So I said, okay, not a big deal. So we go through. There's another company that handles that because he's just a plumber and he only handles that portion of it. Calling the next company, they come in, right? And so the construction senior manager, he's coming in, he's surveying everything, and he says, well, he was like, this is going to be a multi-layered process. And I said, okay. He was like, so the first step that we have to do is that we got to identify what's happening with your walls. And I said, well, what do you mean? He was like, well, your walls are your protection in your home. Your walls are what help you to block out the things that are on the outside. And he said, if there's a problem in your walls, we have to come in and we've got to be able to look at and assess what's going on with these walls. And the only way we can do that is we've got to deconstruct it. We got to do some testing and we got to see how saturated is everything going. And I was like, okay. And he was like, now, in order for us to do that, he said, I need you to understand that there's going to be some dismantling that's going to have to happen. And I was like, well, what do you mean by dismantling? Like, does that mean that I have to, like go to out, or am I going to be able to live in my house? He was like, well, there's going to be certain areas in your house that you will not be able to utilize. And he said, thankfully, you have another bathroom. And he was like, it's going to be real inconvenient right now because you all are going to have to utilize that until we can do this dismantling that has to happen. And I was like, okay. He said, but the good thing is that after we dismantle everything, there's a rebuilding that has to go on. And he said, in this rebuilding, he said, it's literally the process of us going through and we're going to redesign everything that is inside. And he said, so on this inside, when we do the rebuild, he was like, we're going to have to, if it comes to that point, replacing the walls, we're going to replace the structure. And he was like, you're going to have to get rid of all of that used to be. And he was like, and the good thing is you're going to have to, get some new stuff in. And he was like, but we can't do anything until the dismantling and the deconstruction process begins. And I said, well, how long would that take? He was like, it depends on what we find in the foundation and in the wall. So it could be a couple of weeks, it could be a couple of days. You just don't know what will happen because it's a deconstructing process. And I said, okay. And he was like, but here's the great part. And I'm like, well, what's the great part? Like, tell me what it is. He was like, hey, after it's all said and done and it's rebuilt, you'll get to decorate again. And if anybody knows me, Tiff is not the decor person, okay? So I was not excited about the decoration. But he said, you'll get to decorate again and you'll get a chance to be able to put something new up. And he was like, you're pretty much going to have a brand new house by the time that we're done because there's tile work that has to be done. There's a wall work. There's all these different pieces that have to be pulled down in order for you to get back to being how you need to be again. And he said, but once that process is over with, he said, you're going to be in a brand new space. And he said, it's just going to be a brand new peace of mind. And so when he was telling me about this process, y'all know how my brain gets to working, right? I started thinking about, you know what? This deconstructing that I'm going through in my home is sometimes the process that you and I have to endure in our spiritual lives. And so I'm going to just go off of everything that he told me we have to do because sometimes in our lives, stars, this is the things that we have to do in order for us to get to being in a better space, in order for your home to be what it needs to be. So the first thing that he told me was, he said, we have to identify the walls that are having the damage. Sister, sometimes you and I must identify what spiritual walls have you and I put up that have become corrupt? What spiritual wall have you put in place because you're still allowing your guilt and your shame to overtake you? You're still allowing yourself to walk in those things that God says, get rid of it. It's not no longer serving you. But how many of us still walk in that? And because we're walking in it and because we're not actively recognizing it, we got some corrupt walls. Some of our walls are damaged spiritually, and we got to be better, sisters. Psalms 39, verses 23 and 24, David, he prays a prayer that all of us should be praying on a regular and consistent basis. He says, Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Verse 24, he says, see if there is anything offensive in me. He says, if it is, lead me into the way that is everlasting. Sisters, on today, I need you to really ask yourself, what in my walls is being corrupt? What in my spiritual walls is it that God needs to dismantle and he needs to pull down so that I can get back to being up? When you utter this prayer that David says, we talk about it all the time and we like, create in me a clean heart, search me, God, search this. But do you really know what you are asking God when you say this? You're telling God, hey, Lord, I'm inviting you into my life. I'm inviting you into my spiritual realm. And God, whatever is in me that's not like you, take it down. Take down those walls that I've built up because I've been walking in shame because of the choices that I decided to make. I've been walking in guilt because I haven't did what I needed to do. Lead me into the path that you have for me, God, that is going to be everlasting. Sister, sometimes in your deconstruction process, you're going to have to ask God to identify those spiritual walls that have been corrupt. And when you recognize it, cry out like David did and say, God, search me, clean me, let them things be removed so that I can move forward and be the woman of God that you are purposing for me to be. And then after that, in First Peter chapter 5 and 7, there is a beauty in being able to relinquish what it is that we're trying to hold on to. Because see, after you've cried out, there's some things that you're going to have to say, okay, God. But he says, cast your cares on him because he cares for you. Sister, quit walking around with all of this heaviness on you and give it to the one who says, give me your care, give me your burden, give me everything that you are holding on to. Give me the corrupt pieces so that I can give you things that are incorruptible for the pieces that you think are corrupt. Sisters, identify your walls and figure out what pieces do you need to deconstruct so that you can be better. The second thing that chairman he told me about, right? He said that there was some dismantling that was going to be able to happen. Sisters, you and I are going to have to dismantle the lies from the enemy. We build up walls because of our own fear and of our trauma and because of our own insecurities. I'm going to run that back again because look, I hit my toe on that one. We build up these walls that are corrupt because we have fear, because we have anxiety, we have trauma, we have things that we are not dealing with. We have things that we have not casted to the master. Sister, you and I have to be rooted in God's word. It's how we defeat the enemy. It's how we dismantle the things that have been corrupt in our lives. It's how we dismantle all the stuff that the enemy says you are and is telling you that you're supposed to be. You got to get rooted into the word. It's great for us to come here all day, every day and get our high on Sunday, but your work begins in your mental capacity. It begins in your everyday being and your everyday living. You gotta get the word, sister. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. And the verse there is 4 and 5. And it says that the weapons that we fight with are not the weapons of this world. On the contrary, my friends, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. You and I have divine power to demolish strongholds. And then verse number 5 says, we demolish all of the things and it says pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we can take captive of every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Now, when I read this, sisters, it took me by surprise a little bit because when I was thinking about it and I was reading it again, it was telling you that the weapons that you fight with are not these weapons of the world. Sister, if you are in a valley right now, if you find yourself in a rough space, if you find yourself doing some reflection and you see that maybe some of your walls have been corrupted, that maybe some of your walls have been built up off of false pretenses, off of your fears and your trauma, it's time for you to allow the word to attack that thing, to get into it. But I love the way that it says that the word, when you get rooted, it's your weapon. And then not only that, but in verse number 5, it says that you can take captive every single thought. Do you know that that verse is literally telling us that you and I have so much power, so much spiritual power, that literally, if you sit down and you believe it with everything that is within you, and you say, God, look, I know that I have a fear of being rejected. God, I got a fear of feeling like I'm not worthy. And Lord, I believe in you so much that I am willing to surrender. I'm willing to let it go. I'm casting everything that is. And God, I'm believing in you to handle and take care of it all. Do you know that when you literally utter anything that's going on and you believe in faith, you've got so much power, so much ammo behind you that that thing can literally dissolve and move just like that. Like it literally will vanish away if you got enough power behind it. This is why when you start going through trials and tribulations, you got to get to the word. Don't you go to what's happening on social media, everybody telling you to live this, do that. No, it is time for you to get back to what thus saith the Lord. His word is my weapon to go against everybody else. His word is what helps me to defeat the enemy. His word is what's going to allow me to overcome whatever trial, whatever tribulation. You got to believe it, and you got to believe in God's word to be true and true. Sisters, I need for us to be a woman of God who are believing in God's word so hard that when we come together and we're united in one force, and this sisterhood starts sending up prayers, when this sisterhood starts saying, no, I'm claiming our children back. I'm claiming my mind back. I'm claiming my peace. I'm getting whatever belongs to me. When we start proclaiming that, because we're so rooted, everything gonna start changing. We're gonna flip over this whole entire world. But it takes us having the belief that God is who he is and that God will forever be who he is. I'm tired of all these people running around talking about, oh, it's too much. Oh, there's so much going on and we can't change anything. No, when we come together, we can have a mighty blow, but it starts with us knowing what we believe and knowing in whom we serve. We serve Jehovah Jireh, the God who's the provider, the God who is above all. Y'all, let's dismantle the lies of the enemy. Let's tell him he's a liar and tell him to go back to where he came from, because we know in whom we believe and who we trust in. Sisters, you got to identify the walls. After you identify the walls, it's time for you to dismantle all of that is going on inside. Proverbs chapter 4 and verse number 23 from the Easy Standard Version. It says, keep your heart with all vigilance from the flaws that spring from life. Sister, what I want you to do, and this is going to be one of your homework pieces, I'm just going to throw it in. I want you to take a little card. Doesn't matter. You can get an index card. They got them at the Dollar Tree, whatever it is. And I want you to take some concentrated time on this week, on this day, and I want you to write down one of God's truth. Like open up your word and I want you to look at what God has to say, what he is giving you. And I want you to write it on that side. And then as you go throughout your week, when you start getting those thoughts, that negative stuff that's going on, I want you to pick up one of these cards and I want you to write it down. And I want you to look at, this is what God says is true. This is what my God has told me. My God has told me I'm the head and not the tail. I got power. I got moving power. I got so much power that I don't even need a whole lot. I just need a little bit. And if I got just a little bit, I can literally tell a mountain to move and it will, if I believe that the God that I serve is the God that I serve. Sisters, that's what I want you to do as we begin to dismantle the lies that are going on. The architecture also told me that there's going to be a rebuilding phase that I have to go through, right? He says that you're going to have to rebuild some of this stuff. He said, once we get through and taking out all of this, this is going to be the rebuild phase. And this is what you're going to have to go through. Sister, the rebuilding is us allowing God to be the architect of our life. Like we say he's God. We say that he's the author of our life. He's the author and finisher of all things that we are. We say that all the time. But When you go through trials and tribulation, if your first thought is to panic, kind of worry, and you not saying, okay, God, lead the way. God, do what you got to do. God, I'm letting it go. If that's not your first reaction, then sister, you got to start some rebuilding. You got to start allowing God to be in front of you. Hebrews chapter 3 and verse number 4 says, for every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of everything. I'm going to run that one back again. Every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of all things. Sister, how does your foundation look? The architect told me that I had to be able, that they had to look at, what was happening with the walls and the beams, and they had to look at the foundation in order for them to understand what type of rebuilding had to happen with our house, right? What is your foundation looking like? Like, if you had to draw out like a blueprint of your spiritual house, what would it look like? What is inside of your spiritual house? Would you be able to see goodness? Would you be able to see mercy? Would you be able to see faith? Would you be able to see a microwave that says that's my prayer line? Would you be able to see scripture? Would you be able to see love? Would you be able to see that you are walking in authority? Would you be able to see that? Or would your spiritual blueprint look a little empty? Would it look like a house that is falling apart? Look like there's some fear? Look like there's some envy? Look like there's some strife? Would it look like there's no joy? Would it look like there's less faith? Would it look like some spots on the walls? Would it look like there's some bumps and bruises? Would it look like a broken fence? Would it look like some stuff that is going on? What would your spiritual blueprint look like if you had to draw it out right now based off of how you are going through your life right now? You, sister, and we are going to have to make sure that we're examining what is there. Jesus was giving an example in Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 and 25, and he was telling the people, he said that a wise man builds his house on the rock. He said that the rain came, the streams rose, the winds blew, but it did not fall because its foundation was on the rock. Sisters, in our spiritual realm and everything that we do on a spiritual basis, you have got to learn to rebuild. And when you're rebuilding, you better be rebuilding on the rock and that foundation. Because just as sure as we are born and just as sure as we can blink our eyes and take a breath, the rains are going to come in life. The streams of life are going to come and try to overtake you. The winds are going to be blowing. They're going to be taking you back and forth. And when it happens, I need my sisters to not just be falling apart. I need your spiritual blueprint to say, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, the rain is coming down. It's pouring on me. Yeah, I got more bills and money. My child is losing it. My health is here. But I'm standing on the rock who is my help and who is my protector. And because I'm standing on that rock, because I'm anchored in that, then I got what I need to rebuild and to be a woman of purpose and to rebuild and be a woman of value. Sister, the deconstruction process is necessary sometimes in order for you and I to get back up into who we need to be. Sometimes God has to dismantle those things that we've been holding on to, hanging on to, we have not been surrendering to in order for Him to get you back into the space that He needs you to be in. What is your spiritual foundation? What does your spiritual blueprint look like on today? Last thing that he told me was, he said, after all of the rebuilding, all of the repurposing, he said, this is where the fun part comes. He says, you get to redecorate. Now, I ain't a decorator. That don't excite me. I'm not that one. But he said that that's the joy of it. He said, because after all of the stuff is gone, after we've taken out all of the old and you've got all of this new edifices that are going to be in your life, he was saying that this is when you get to really remodel and you get to display all the stuff. And so because I had like decor and I had color that was at the bottom of my home, right? He told me, he said, So, because you had all of this, he was like, when we come back and it's time, once we finish everything, he said, you don't have to worry about your wall structures. He was like, we're going to repaint it. And he was like, we're going to redo it and we're going to have everything. I'm getting new tiles, like all of that. Y'all, I'm getting literally a brand new home and it's going to be decorated. And he said, you know, anything that you need, he was like, you'll be able to put it in. He was like, you just have to make sure that you get it in, while it's time for us to do the rebuilding and restructuring. And when I thought about the fact that I get to decorate, when it comes to our spiritual side, sisters, we got to be decorating ourselves with love. Fill your house with the love of God, His grace, and His mercy. You have got to, sister, be able to fill it up with what God has for you. Not what you see, but what God has. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And the verse there is 1 through 7. And I love this, because we always talk about this when it's weddings and stuff like that. And, we call it the love chapter and all of that. But I'm going to read this to you from what is deemed as the message version. Love it. It's really plain. It's really simple. It says, if I speak with human eloquence and angelic ecstasy, but don't love, I'm nothing but a creaking of a rusty gate. If I speak God's word with power, revealing all of his mysteries and making everything plain as day, and if I have faith that says to a mountain, jump, and it actually jumps, but I don't love, I'm nothing. He says, if I give everything I own to the poor and even go to the stake to be burnt as a martyr, but I don't love, I've gotten nowhere. So no matter what I say or what I believe and what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. So, stars, I need us to understand that in order for you and I to decorate our inner home, for us to redecorate what it is that God has for us, God's love for us is so unconditional. God's love for us is so powerful. Like, he don't leave us. Like, no matter how bad you think you've done or what you did or what you was hiding from and you was trying to hide away from everybody else, God still ain't leaving you. Like, I need you to understand that his love is the foundation of everything that you are. It's because of his love that we are here. It's because of love that Jesus went to the cross. It's because of love that you and I get to be in the place that we are in. Stop filling your house with messes, star, and start filling yourself up with the love of God. Because, see, when you have God's love, you can be great. You can have on the most beautiful outfit. You can look good on the outside. You can look good with whatever you might have. But if you are corrupted and you can't walk in the authority and the love that is covering you, the love that is keeping you, the love that holds you, the love that will continue to keep you and will surrender and everything, then, sister, guess what? Your house gonna look good on the outside, but in the inside, it's gonna look raggedy. It's gonna be empty. And I need us to not be empty, sisters. I need for us to be able to walk in the authority that is there. I need us to understand we're not our guilt. We're not our shame. We're not all of those extra pieces that are still hanging around. We are more. I need us to understand that your identity doesn't exist just because of what was. Your identity is in the one who is. And because the one who is everything, then guess what? You got something new. You got purposing. You got value. Sister, I need you to understand that when you allow God to do the restructuring, he will redecorate your heart. He will redecorate your mind. He will give you something beautiful. What you deem is not worthy, what you deem is not acceptable. He says, I'm decorating it with love. I'm covering it up. I'm letting everybody know that you are great and there is more to you. There is more than what you see for yourself because I am all and I am the great I am. And because of that, sister, we can be brand new. Sometimes, sisters, We got to deconstruct in order for you and I to be rebuilt. Sometimes the walls of your house are going to have to be dismantled. And just like I asked the man, well, how long is this going to take? What is it going to do? He says it does. I don't know. It depends on what's in the foundation. Sister, God can change things instantaneously, or he can make you walk through that thing for some time. The choice is up to you. On today, what are you going to do? What is your spiritual foundation going to be like? What is your spiritual house going to be? How are you going to adorn yourself? What are you going to put in? See yourself as God sees you, sister. See your spiritual realm being all that God would have you to be. Understand that in order for you to be rebuilt, there's going to be some things that have to be broken down, but the process is going to be on you. Will you trust him? Will you surrender to him? Will you say, okay, God, search me, make me whole, make me clean, do what you got to do, deconstruct me so that my house can be what you have purposed it to be? Sometimes dismantling has to happen, sister. Sometimes it's going to be chaotic and you're going to be all squished up in one place. But when the new thing comes through and when you become greater, you're going to look brand new. You're going to be great. You got love that is guiding you. And when you remember that, sister, you got power to change any and everything. The walls are coming down, but your faith and your rooting in God has to be your number one. That's our lesson for today, y'all. All right. I want everyone to be great on today. Too, I think you are ready to go ahead and put us into the groups. It's just going to be 5 minutes.